Let's go to Turk Albert. Welcome to the program, Turk.
Um, hey, yes, this is Global Warming Skeptic from the chat, and I want to reference something that I guess was it was his name Matt that called before Barry did.
I'm sorry. The thing, just say your point. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but
Okay, yeah, I'm just referring to a previous caller. He referred to a climate consensus. He said that 97% of peer-reviewed studies refute or support climate
that's
change,
correct.
which is not. Yes, he did, which is not true, and that
Okay.
there is a 97% scientific consensus, which is also not true.
Okay. And what do you say to bolster your association, your assertion there?
Well, there's a paper called "Quantifying the Consensus on Anthropogenic Climate Change" by John Cook of Skeptical Science.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at Table 4 of the self-rated papers, you'll see that only 62% of peer-reviewed studies endorse anthropogenic climate change of any magnitude.
Okay. I don't have that in front of me, and I don't know who John Cook is. And so, all right. So you're saying that 62%. You obviously discount the uh, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, right? Is that correct or no?
Yes, because that is not a scientific organization. It is a political organization that was set up by the European Union.
And but it's not necessarily it's a political organization, but it's made up of scientists, no? Or
There are some scientists on it, yes, but they are not. Their statements are not subject to peer review. See, there's a lot of scientists that do blogs, and they can say whatever they want
mm-hmm.
on blogs. Like, for example, you have Richard Mueller, who's a relatively respected scientist, and he says that there is a red dwarf orbiting the sun, and it's called Nemesis, basically talking about like wormwood from the Bible. You know, his statements are not peer reviewed on this, but this is the kind of things that he and other scientists will say when they're not filtered through a stringent process.
um, I'm not sure I understand what the point of that is.
Well, the point of that is to say that just because an organization has scientists, it does not automatically make what they say or what the organization says valid. Like in the instance of the IPCC, the summary for the policymakers is not written by scientists, but instead editors who will take statements from working groups 1 and 2, and they'll just summarize it. And a lot of times they completely ignore studies that cast doubt on human-caused climate change or its impacts.
Okay, so I don't. I mean, I'm not really sure. So okay, so John Cook has done the I guess the survey of all of
The,
the peer
the
reviewed
scientific,
studies.
yeah.
Okay, and and he's coming to this as what?
He's coming to this as the owner of a blog called Skeptical Science, which is a blog that supports. It's called Skeptical Science, but it's actually a proponent of human-caused climate change. He actually supports the idea that we should act on climate change, and on his paper, they found that there was only a 62% consensus that there was any change at all. That's 1% at all.
That that
That's
is
not to
that is
say,
man made.
um, that any part of it is man-made. That is at least 1% is man-made.
Okay.
That doesn't say the amount that believe that a majority of the climate change is caused by human activity.
Okay, so let me take your let me just stipulate what you're saying as being the case. I'm not familiar with this stuff, so I don't know, right?
Okay.
But so what are the implications of that to you?
Well, the implications are that we just need to slow down and stop trying to argue from consensus, and let's look at the data for and against climate change and to see if there's anything actionable. Because a lot of the politics, such as like people saying there's no debate, there is a consensus, the earth is going to fry if we don't do something right now, which ironically is something they've been saying for 20 years. What we need to do is just, start focusing on the science again.
Okay. Well, now wait a second. So you're saying, and I'm going, for the sake of this argument, stipulate that the science is that 62%. Now, the numbers for the actual phenomena of global change you're not questioning, right? Because there is, I think, about 97, 98%, if not higher, agreement that climate change is happening.
Yeah, climate change
Okay.
is certainly happening.
So when you say to me in this conversation, people have been talking about we're going to fry, and they've been saying that for 20 years, that comment is completely irrelevant to our conversation, right? Because we are both in agreement that the vast preponderance of the science is that we are headed for some type of disaster. But
No.
the argument is whether or not this is being driven by what man is or is not doing, and thus, this is the argument that you and I are having. Man or man not is the cause of it, and therefore that implicates as to what we can do about it.
No, because see, this is a problem that liberals will often do. They'll.
It's interesting that you're
associate
making this about politics, but go ahead.
Okay. I apologize. I shouldn't have done that. But
No, I'm just
what I'm
curious as
saying
to
now-
where you're coming from. That's all. So,
Okay.
but we're in agreement, are we not, that climate change is real?
Yes, the climate is changing. It's always been changing.
Okay.
But it's changing.
Are we in
now.
agreement that we are headed towards a problem because the climate is going to be changing in such a way that is going to cause an ever-increasing amount of natural disasters, be they droughts, floods, deaths of species, etc.?
See, that's where we're not in agreement, because it's like I said, the climate has always changed. It's always varied both locally and globally. It does not imply that there's a disaster just because.
Do you
there is
think
a
that the
change.
planet is warming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there has been recent warming.
Okay. And you're just suggesting that this is just a normal cycle and nothing, we're fine.
I'm saying that there's no evidence currently that we're headed for disaster. I don't know.
Now, wait a
if
second.
things are
I
fine.
thought we just agreed that the vast majority of scientific peer-reviewed data suggests that climate change is real, that the trend is going in a certain direction, and it's going to be very problematic. Did we not agree on that?
No, we did not agree on that. I said that climate change.
Where's the data that you have for that?
temperature's going up.
Where's the data that you have for that? You point to John Cook, 62% of peer reviews say that it's man-made. Where's the data that you have to establish that this is not going to be a problem for us?
The burden of proof isn't on me. It's on
Okay.
you to show that there is going to be a problem.
Well,
guys are
I
the
mean,
ones that want
you
the
discount the IPCC. You discount the increase in sea level. You discount the idea of droughts. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
You're aware that sea level's been increasing for about 10,000 years at about a rate of 2 millimeters per year, correct? And that we've added a slight amount to it, most likely.
Okay, well, a
Maybe
slight
half a
amount
millimeter.
seems to be significant to people who follow these things. We're going to lose some cities. And we're going to lose some cities in a rapid amount of time. So apparently a slight difference, uptick in the amount of sea level and the melting of the ice sheets and whatnot, that's not an issue for you.
We're not increasing sea level by that much. We're increasing it by half a millimeter per year, which is, if you multiply that by 100, that's 500. That's 50 millimeters a year. 5 centimeters, that's a couple inches. Now, granted, that could increase, and I'd like to find out. A couple of inches
is apparently very problematic.
No, because the things that are going to destroy the cities, they're claiming 7 to 20 feet of rise, which, I'm sorry, we have no evidence for that kind of sea level rise, current or impending.
All right, and so, all right, look. What is your ultimate point here? That this climate change thing is some type of hoax or what?
No, I'm not saying it's a hoax. There are problems with corruption based on money on both sides. I'm not saying that one side is smelling of roses and daisies. There's a lot of corruptions on both sides.
I see.
You had said that you used that John Cook study to basically, say don't use that 97% of scientists agree to stifle discussion and both sides need to come together and discuss this. But the both sides are not discussing it. There's one side it's not like there's two sides and they're debating over which method to deal with it. There's one side that says
he doesn't believe that it exists.
But even I think the other point though is that even first of all, I've been looking at John Cook's website and I think you acknowledged he's actually trying to build a consensus that climate science is very real and the threat is very real. I can't find what you cited about the 62%, but for what it's worth, 62% is still solid majority opinion in a field if that number is even real.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this. Okay, where is all the money? Where is the money? I mean, you seem like a reasonable, rational guy. Where do you think all this money is coming from on this this pro climate change thing relative to, let's say, the money on the denial?
Well,
I mean, I'm just going to assume that if you go in and the doctor says to you, you got a 62% chance of cancer, that you're going to change your diet. Maybe you won't.
Well, 62% doesn't refer to the amount of people who believe climate change is actionable. It's just the amount that believe that
it's man-made.
Humans are adding is measurable. That is greater than
62%. You told me is is man-made.
No, I said any man-made. See, there's a number between 1 and 100% of the amount that man's causing, because there's a lot of natural causes to climate change in addition to the man-made causes.
Right. But you and I don't know, because we haven't looked at those peer-reviewed studies, whether it's 1% or 99%. And so you won't take the consensus of the largest body that is looking at this. You will not take the consensus of the largest amount of scientists who look at this stuff, because you presume that nobody's smelling of roses and that those people are, even though you and I are not going to look into those 62%, we know it's between 1 and 100, and they could all be 99 or they could all be 2, right? But we're not going to look into that. And so you're just falling on where you want to fall. And I'm curious as to, because I can sit here and I can tell you, I can point to what they did with tobacco. I can point to you what they do with car recalls. I can point to you what they did with formaldehyde. I can go on and on about examples where industries and corporations have been quite aware of the implications of what they were doing to either consumers or to the environment or whatever, and funded denial on it. I can point to that. Can you point to me another example where there has been something on this large of scale, this type of hoax? What's funding it? What's driving this?
Well,
the Chinese, because they want to make solar panels? Is that what it is?
Well, I looked at the numbers for myself, and I can tell you for a fact that NASA has a $22 billion climate budget. And I Googled all the news sources that I could find on the amount of skeptic money, and even the most liberal of websites I could find. I think it was Think Progress or something. They said that skeptics only invest $900 million on quote-unquote climate change denial. So
Now, wait a
even
second.
in
Wait a second. How much is NASA's budget on climate science?
$22 billion.
Now, I'm looking right now, and according to NASA's fiscal year 2011 budget, they got $18.4 billion for everything they were doing.
I think this is 2013's budget. I think
So you're
right
saying
about
that their
2011.
budget not only went up by $4 billion, but they're not doing anything except for climate science?
I'm saying, yeah, that's the total amount they're using on climate science. Now, if climate
Wait
change is not
a second.
problem,
Dude.
that money goes
Hold on
away.
for a second. So you're telling me that the NASA budget 2014 is, let's see, do you have that number?
I have the number. So NASA's
request
requesting
for-
17.5 billion budget for 2015, and the request includes funding for new science missions, ground flying telescopes, and other aspects.
So where
of
are you getting
space
your
exploration.
figure?
They're-
22 billion for climate science.
It was the NASA website itself. I'll have to look it up, but that's probably their space budget is what I'd have to estimate.
What?
But
What?
my point is...
No.
that,
Listen,
okay,
the budget that they get is about 18 billion. And you're telling me that 22 billion of that 18 billion is spent on climate change.
it might be the U.S. government's in total. I'm not sure. I just know...
Where did you get that
that
figure?
I got it from a government website. I can't remember specifically.
There's a government website
but
that
it
says
was
we're
20
spending $22 billion on researching.
I have from the National
climate
Journal.
reasons.
From the National Journal. Under Obama, NASA's Earth science budget, which would include climate change, would increase from 1.38 billion in 2009 to 1.77 billion in 2015.
Okay, but we're still talking. That's a sizable amount of money. But do you? I mean,
But Earth science just isn't climate, though.
well, I understand. Let's
so
say
that's
it's
even so. Just their
$500,000.
Their entire Earth science budget is still extremely much. It's so much lower than what he's claiming.
all right. Look.
Well,
Your numbers are a little bit off, at least on the thing that we can look up right here. But nevertheless, I'm not sure what your point is. You think there's a big hoax that's being driven by the massive amounts of money that the government
I
is
didn't use
spending
that
on
word.
NASA. So it's all these NASA climate scientists who are the ones who are making off like bandits on this thing.
see, I didn't say anything about a hoax or making up anything.
Well, but no, I'm just
asking
curious
where
as
the
to what's
money is.
driving this.
I'm telling you where the money is.
Well, but you were wrong about the money. I mean,
no,
you were
I'll
off.
send the link to you, I promise you.
Okay, I
But I
appreciate
don't
that.
have it in front of me immediately. I can't
Well,
have every
let's
single...
just hope that you are right, because it is quite clear that there is no action happening on a global scale that is going to stop what these deluded scientists involved in the IPCC think is going to happen. And hopefully you'll be right. Because if you're wrong, we're all screwed. If you're right, then we've wasted a couple of $100,000 or maybe a couple of million or a couple of $100 million. Maybe we've wasted this year $1.8 billion, which is, I think, what we were spending in Afghanistan or in Iraq per month, at least. So let's hope you're right. And we'll end it there
but-
because I'm going a little long. But please call in again and send me that link.
I sure will.
Thank you.